Call the meeting to order of the Finance Committee of Pittsylvania County Board of Supervisors, Monday, February 12, 2018 at 3:38 p.m. Conference Room 1, County Administration Building, 1 Center Street, Chatham, Virginia. Roll call, Ms. Whitman.
Mr. Davis.
Present.
Mr. Warren.
Here.
Mr. Scare.
Here.
Mr. Blackstock.
Present.
And we will note that Mr. Farmer is also present.
Okay. Are there any items to be added to the agenda? I think Mr. Davis passed out a handout, but it's not really related to the, what is this?
That's those items that Mr. Stoneman sent you all, and you wanted to take a look at it.
Okay.
And discuss it today.
Yeah, so we can vote on it, okay? All right, I'll entertain a motion to add budget adjustments and transfer to contingency, as requested by the county administrator.
So moved. Second.
Moved and second. All in favor of adding that to the agenda as item B? I guess we could probably do this as
Understand?
under item C, make it CA. C1, which one would that be?
C1.
C1?
C1.
Okay. Budget adjustments. Okay. All right, now I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended. So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Davis, second by Mr. Scare. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. All right. We will email copies of the minutes for January the 16th and January the 29th. Do we need to, David's not in here, is he? You got the flu? We'll be safe. We'll go ahead and I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes for January 16th, 2018 first.
So moved, Mr. Chairman. Second.
Motion by Mr. Warren, second by Mr. Davis. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's unanimous. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the January 29th, 2018 Finance Committee.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Davis.
Second.
Second by Mr. Scares. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's unanimous. Under new business, 6A, discussion of the sheriff's budget request. We were notified early this morning, Mr. Smotherman and I, by Sheriff Taylor, that he has come down with the flu. So we really can't discuss his budget at this point, so we'll move forward. Does anybody have any questions or comments about that?
Hopeful speedy recovery.
Yeah, I sent him an email back to that effect. And we all know that the flu has been exceptionally dangerous this year, with the actual death of a young person in our county. And so anybody that has a flu, we certainly wish them a speedy recovery, a full recovery, and need to be careful with that. We were all briefed at the LEPC meeting recently about the flu, about the health department. Serious business this year. All right, we'll go to item B, discussion of methodology for assessment and tax rates. I'll turn it over to our Commissioner of Revenue, Shirley Hammock.
Thank you, gentlemen. I'm not exactly sure what you were seeking from me today, okay?
Okay.
Because the handouts that you received were basically stuff we covered about 18 months ago in 2016 after I took office. Basically what we presented then is still true today. The Commissioner's Office administers the real estate and personal property taxes mandated by the Code of Virginia and any other taxes that you as a board choose to adopt, such as property tax exemptions, deferrals, or land use. And the rates, of course, are set by you as the board, and they're applied to the valuations made by our office. So basically, again, the handout that you were given is the same presentation that I did in 2016, basically outlining the number of assessments that we deal with, and some comparisons from other localities, comparing personal property information, how we currently assess the different categories of personal property. And, I mean, I can go over all of that again for the benefit of anybody that doesn't recall how we do that.
Okay.
We do 30% of the average trade-in on vehicles, okay? If the vehicle is not found in a recognized pricing guide, then we take a percentage of cost that comes from DMV, and we apply we start off with a current year. If anything was purchased in 2017 that we would be assessing for the first time in 2018, then we would apply 27.5% of the DMV cost. We have a depreciation schedule that goes down 2.5% until it reaches 5% of cost. After that, it remains at that cost until it drops out of NADA, a recognized appraisal guide, which is about a 20-year book that we use. And then it's at the minimum value of $100. Our business personal property is basically the same computation. It starts out at 27.5% for any new items that a business picks up or purchases in the prior year, and it depreciates out at 2.5% over a 10-year period, and it hangs at 5% until they dispose of it. Machinery and tools is 10% of original capitalized cost. It's no adjustment. It's just flat. You buy it in 2017, it's 10% of original capitalized cost. They hold it for 20 years, it's still 10% of original capitalized cost. The merchant's capital is the only thing that we have adjusted, and we do now have a sliding scale on that. The first $1 million is 30%. From $1.1 million to $5 million is I think that's somewhere. Goes to 10%, I think, and then it goes to 5% and everything over $5 million. So that's the only adjustment in our assessment method that's been made since I took office in 2016. I would like to say at this stage in the budget process, it's too late to attempt to redo these assessment methods. So if that's the direction that you would like as a board for me to pursue, then we need to start to work on it as soon as we finish this assessment cycle, and hopefully we have something in place for the next budget year. But right now, you know, it's just too late. I mean, the business reporting forms will be back by the 15th. We've already started our assessment ratios and all of that. We've downloaded DMV. We're working on that now, waiting for some watercraft information to come in. So as you review the documents that you've got, if you have any questions about particular tax rate or concerns that you have, I just want to remind you that the state code does set the guidelines for those rates. So when you start adjusting one rate, you've got to be sure you're in compliance with the other rates. For example, machinery and tools cannot exceed the personal property tax rate. So right now it's $450. Our personal property rate is $875. If you do something that wanting to adjust your personal property rate down, you're going to have to also adjust your machinery and tools, and you're going to have to come up with a different calculation for the valuations on that. So I think there should be a section, an exhibit in there that kind of goes over the Exhibit 3, probably, I don't have the pages numbered, I'm sorry, but the other classifications of tangible personal property for taxation, 3506. And that's going to tell you your limitations as far as what rate that you can apply to these different categories. And that's defined in
It's one of those one that's got marked Exhibit 1 or Exhibit 2.
Okay.
All right, this is Exhibit 1, I got a 2 on it.
Yeah, if you flip through that stack, you'll get to one
Got
that's
Exhibit 3.
and that same stack.
Oh, it's in the same set. Okay, Exhibit 3,
25 pages down.
page 1 of 7.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Section B basically tells you what these categories that are broken down in the previous Section A, what rate that you can apply to those categories. So like I said, you know, some cannot exceed tangible personal property, some cannot exceed machine and tool rate, and so when you're working on this, it's gotta be very careful that you address every tax rate accordingly, according to the state code.
I think if I remember right, I guess I'll start this conversation off and try to get something going here. The concern was that our personal property rate sticks out like a sore thumb. And what you're telling us is if we change that, first of all, you're saying it's too late to change that methodology this year.
Yes.
If we wanted to change if we want to go up on personal property taxes, is it too late for that? Or
No, the rate, you know, all we gotta do is plug the rate in. Once you tell me what rate, we plug it in, and it'll apply that to the valuation. But to change the assessment method, it's too late for that.
All right. I know that I've had a couple of board members ask me about that. I'll open the floor up to the committee for questions.
I only have one now, Mr. Chairman, and I'm assuming that would be true with all of our taxes. In other words, if it was ever deemed necessary to lower or raise taxes, and we wanted to do a percentage across the board, that we could do that.
Increase the rate, yes, or
decrease.
decrease.
Okay, that's one question I have.
For the newer board members, what I was referring to, it's on this page.
Bless you.
Excuse me. It's if you look at the, it says comparison of Pittsylvania County assessment to surrounding counties. If you look in the first section, when some of our citizens and even people from outside see our personal property tax rate without the complete formula, and a lot of in some documents just list the tax rate, they don't list the entire formula. When we have listed at 8.75 and everybody else is 2.35, 4.45, 3.6, if you look across there at the very end, the effective tax rate, we're at 2.23 using that methodology that we use here in the county. Bedford County's at 1.74, Campbell's at 2.23, exact same as us, 2.74 at Halifax, and 1.12 at Henry. But the we discussed several months ago changing in methodology, but it takes a period of time to get the software set up. And I think also what you're saying is that if we change this, there's some other tax rates we're going to have to change too because of the methodology. And you would need basically a year's notice to do that.
To figure out what percentage, because 18 months ago y'all told me that you did not want to get a windfall of revenue, that it was to remain revenue neutral, you know, to just change the assessment method and apply the effective tax rate to it. There is a part of this in here. The vehicles are no problem, basically bringing them to 100% of trade-in. It's when you get into that business property where you've got people buying business equipment in 2017, then they may have gone 5 years before they bought something else, and you've got all this fluctuation of when they brought that property into the county, you know, for taxation. I have applied every percentage. I've gone to other localities that, you know, kind of have the same effective tax rate. I've tried to use their percentages, and you're never gonna get that revenue neutral. You're gonna have some businesses pay more, some considerably more, some's gonna pay less based on when their equipment came into the county. So that's been the really hang up as far as my office is concerned, trying to work through the various scenarios in the business property. For example, if you go back to, it should be a one towards the back that says the entire BOT file by year acquired, going to 90% of cost and doing a 5% depreciation if at the And really, as far as the effective tax rate, you're really looking at 263 because 30% of the average trade-in is actually knocking 15% off the retail right at the top. So that's really our effective rate is 263, okay? So when you do that, when you look at that rate and using that percentage, you're losing $5,150 in taxes overall, okay? Then we got, if you start at 70% and do a 5%, you're gaining $29,800. Then starting at 70 and cutting off at 25, you're losing $48,000. And then I think last time someone wanted to run the city of Danville rates, so I did that. If we went with what the city and how they assess, we would lose $307,406. So, you know, that's, like I said, that's where I've struggled with, is trying to put different scenarios in there and come up with as close to what we get from the businesses now. So, like I said, vehicles is really no problem as far as bumping that, but then again, then you get into, you gotta have a tangible personal property rate that can flow over to your business as well.
Was that you?
That's that California music. I'm waiting for George Washington to walk in.
But like I said, I mean, if that's what you direct me to try to do over the next 18 months when we finish this, I'll hit it again the best I can.
Are there wide variances in how counties do machinery and tools, or is everybody pretty much doing it the same way?
No, it varies. I don't know whether I have the machine and tool comparison in there or not. Several years ago, when we actually visited all of our machinery and tools, we did start asking them to break it out because some localities do have a declining percentage. And they did for a while, and they've kind of gotten away from that again, so they're basically just lump summing everything together. But there are some localities that do start off with a higher percentage and then depreciate it based on the age of the equipment.
Are they appreciating it based on any kind of market value index, or just a random 5% or some predetermined?
Most of it are predetermined.
We get some comments in terms of economic development, because it's kind of the same situation as our machine and tool tax rate looks high, but it's only assessed at 10% of the purchase cost. So it's one of those things that catches people's attention right off. You can explain it away, but at first glance it looks high.
Because of the methodology, the same as personal property rate.
And then again, that flows over, the methodology on the machine and tools flows over to businesses also, because there's a section in there that says your assessment method has to be the same as machinery and tools, but you apply the personal property rate.
The domino effect.
Yeah, right.
Yep.
Is there a strategy or tactic that makes discounting preferable to just put the market value, just flat out make everything 100%? I'm just wondering how this all came about. And I don't mean here, I mean throughout the industry.
Well, I think in the code it says machinery and tools have to be valued at a method out of a percentage of original cost. Let's see.
That's the last part.
I have that. Do we have the machinery and tool or the one? What's the last?
The code is
The code,
the last
exhibit
one.
14, the rate of tax imposed by county, city, county, such machinery and tools shall not exceed the rate based upon the general price of changes in
I think we're looking for a different one, the method of assessment, which may be in
Exhibit 1, 2, and 3, somewhere in that methodology.
yeah, I think it may be there. code book. I wish I found it in the code book, and I can't read these.
That section. Section there.
I think it's actually this section on machinery and tools. I'm sorry, I don't have that. I think it's probably in my folder over here somewhere. But, and I can follow up to be sure that what I'm telling you is true on that. But it seems like that in the machinery and tools section, that it does state that it has to be valued at a percentage of, yeah, machinery and tools segregated for local taxation, that's 3507, shall be valued by means of depreciated cost or a percentage or percentages of original total capitalized cost, excluding capitalized interest.
That could be 100%.
Yeah, it could be 100%.
It could be.
It could be.
But it won't be.
Is there I know that there's companies out there that do personal property audits or machinery and tools audits for industry. Do they provide market values? Is there anyone that specializes on market value? Because some things won't depreciate at the same rate as others. We know that.
Yeah, that's true. And the code is open to the point that if someone is they can present if they're I guess appealing their value, they can present an independent appraisal, you know, and we have to review it and look at it. But as far as hiring like a firm to do that, we're not allowed by code. They have to work for, any audits have to be conducted by an employee.
So theoretically, and I'm not suggesting this, but theoretically, if Mr. Jennings was an expert at machinery and tools valuation, he could literally assign a value during an audit and come back and rectify it.
Another thing while we're on machinery and tools is, by code too, if we change the assessment method, we have to publish it 30 days before we change it and give the public a chance.
Public hearing.
Yeah, to,
I would assume that was any of them.
this just says that it has to be published 30 days and they can submit written comments to the Commissioner of Revenue regarding the proposed change. So I would have to follow up to see what the other procedure would be on the rest of them, but that's just something that I highlighted in here, because it did deal with machinery and tools.
I know I, for one, have wondered a long time until I started going through this process, why that 8.75 was there, and that I thought it needed changing. But after listening to all the issues and how it would affect the other rates, I don't know that I think it may be too complicated and cumbersome to change it. But and obviously you would need a year ahead of plenty of time, and some software changes would be made also.
Yeah, basically our business, the way the schedule works now is we can control that schedule. I mean, when we go in and we create our assessment schedule, we put in the percentage that we want to depreciate, and then of course we'll just enter in original cost that they supply us, you know, and then it calculates out based on the parameter. So it wouldn't be a whole lot as far as, you know, actual software changes that would have to be done. Vehicles are a little bit different. We'd have to do some software changes in that. But like I said, the one I have struggled with, and I will take any advice or direction if you proceed this way, is the business stuff, you know. Because like I said, you know, I don't want to discourage businesses in the county. And if you've got somebody, you know, going up $28,000 on their taxes because you changed the method of assessment, you know, It may be something that, and I haven't pursued this, but it may be something that you could gradually, like, almost like the merchant's capital slide into, you know, as they replace the equipment, whatever. But it would be very difficult to manage as far as assessment wise in the office.
Okay, we've heard from Mrs. Hammock. Is it, I guess the first question would be for the committee, would be, is it any interest in changing, to start with, the personal property formula at this point?
I have a question.
Go on.
If we want to set this aside for now, as we're going through this budget process, and then reconvene when it's not as pressing, and have a chance to really read and look at all this material, and then come back and have that discussion to see, would that still give you enough time?
I would
If we
like,
did it,
yeah,
you know,
I would like to have it by, say, the first half that was due June. Because basically, when I turn it over to Mr. Shorter, we're done with the assessments. I mean, you know, and we could start pursuing and looking at other methods for the
so if we
coming year.
revisited in April or May, and you were gonna, I'm not saying we're ever gonna do anything.
Right.
If we were gonna have that discussion.
We'll do more research and then come back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
would that be plenty of time?
It should give me time to get something by the fall, maybe early fall, where I could come back and tell you, okay, this is what, if you change it to this, based on what we assessed for 18, this is where you would be, you know, and, you know.
I mean, I've looked at it before, but it was 18 months ago, I'd like to take a chance to really.
If we gave you a rate today,
That you would like to work towards?
yes, starting with personal property, and then that give you a number with that amount, and then you could do some research and try to bring everything into line and come back to us. Would that help you?
Well, that's what I was trying to work with, the 263, which was the effective rate.
I thought it was 240.
Well, one of them, I think, in the vehicles, I actually
223.
calculated 223, but like I said, when you take into consideration that trade-in already depreciates at 15%, it actually makes your
Rate.
a little bit higher.
263.
So if you were to go from trade-in to retail and go to 100% instead of a discounted percent, our rate may be $1.85.
Retail's gonna be higher.
Right.
Yeah.
Which means we can lower the rate, which looks a lot better to people Greg runs into.
But then you gotta remember too, then, as we said, it's a domino effect.
Right, you have to, you convinced me we have to do it all at once or do nothing.
Right. Because your machinery and tool rate would have to be below that dollar or whatever that you set there.
understand that.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Ms. Davis?
You're saying when, let's just say, let me make sure that I'm on board, if let's say we raised real estate tax, okay, and, which we
Personal
already,
property.
or, it doesn't, either way, I'm not worried about the subject matter, I'm looking at another part, and he was right when he said the domino effect, because as soon as you said it the first time, that's what I'm thinking is the domino effect, so whatever we raised, whatever it was, does everything else, personal property tax, all the other things that are subsequent there, do they have to raise, or can they be lowered? So you gotta know, you know, you raise one, you have to lower. In other words, all of them have to be touched, right? All of them, or do they?
Not.
Well, see, that's where I misunderstood. I thought when you said that if you raised like real estate tax, everything else had to be raised,
No.
or had to be lowered, or had to be addressed.
No. The only thing when you go looking at the assessment methods, there are certain rates in personal property that if you're lowering the personal property rate, then machinery and tool rate's gotta be lower. But as far as y'all setting rates now, any category that you've got, you could go up. If you wanna go $9 on personal property, you know, at the present assessment method, or machinery and tool rate, or real estate, you know, the different. The only rate you cannot touch is merchant's capital. That's set by code. It cannot increase over what your 1978 rate was, which was $2.75. So that rate cannot be set.
Thank you, Madam. You got it.
A little clear. I think what,
Is it any interest from the committee in asking her to go back with a 263 rate and coming back with us, be prepared to discuss that in May?
No, give me time after May.
Well, I mean, we're talking about meeting again in
Okay,
May,
okay.
just to discuss it, Bob, Mr. Warren.
Mr. Chairman, again, I'm gonna defer back to say, I'd rather read all the material.
Okay.
I think it's a valid point to think if we go to actual purchase price versus trade-in price. I mean, if we're looking to look better against competition, I think we have to look at that avenue too, to be able to give to Greg 185 versus 263.
Right.
I'm not saying we should change anything, because I'm like Mr. Smith. You made a believer out of me that it's not as easy as maybe I think it ought to be.
Yeah,
You know.
and it would take a lot of public, getting to the public that just because the rate comes down does not mean your tax levy's coming down.
Exactly.
I mean, yeah.
And I'll share this with you, I'm already getting calls, because Mr. Jennings is going out, and I discussed this with Ms. Hammock today, but one of the reasons I got to the meeting at 3:30 is because I was meeting with someone who was extremely upset about business tax. And, in years past, before the county hired, or Ms. Hammock hired a person, or we gave us money to do that, but I think maybe it was only myself and Mr. Barber.
Sam actually hired.
Yeah, Sam did it for you. All right,
Make that
Sam for
clear,
the press.
okay.
Sam for the press, Mr. Swanson. We didn't really have anybody going out doing anything, looking, because we didn't have anybody. And now we do, and citizens are not used to that. And we actually had one former board member that Mr. Jennings showed up at his house and to his business, and he wasn't happy. And I think Mr. Jennings asked him who sent him, and he said, "You did."
And he did ask me about that. I'm not gonna show prejudice.
I remember that. He asked you about that in a committee meeting, but we won't go into that.
And Mr. Jennings has discovered a lot of revenue. I don't have the up-to-date figure, I got some several months ago. But right now, what he's doing now is the towns do have a town license, okay? So if you start a business, you do have to get a license in the town. So what he did was we contacted the towns and got a list of the businesses that had registered with the town. We did a comparison against the county. That's what he's done now, is contacted those that we don't have any information on, asking them to comply and file with us. So yeah, we've ruffled a few feathers in the towns, but, he is doing his job,
You're the commissioner of revenue. That's on your bailiwick. Okay, is it any other question?
I mean, I'm open, I'm usually there at 8 to 5. If y'all have any questions that you come up with while you're looking through this material or whatever, I'll be glad to sit down with you, one-on-one or as a group, however you want to, and we'll go over it,
Well, I know this. I know that your job is to collect the taxes, and it's not but actually the treasurer's paid, but you enforce it, and it's a tough job, and it's not always easy, and a lot of this is complicated. And because we did not have anyone in the past looking, just like businesses were not, a lot of businesses were not paying. They weren't aware that they had to pay, let's be honest. They didn't know they had to pay. So when Mr. Jennings, your office, started going out looking, it has ruffled some feathers. And the board needs to, any citizens need to understand that all you're doing is trying to enforce the code.
Uniformly, every business should pay their fair share.
So, I know I understand, I don't always agree with the IRS, but I have to write checks. All right, any other questions for Ms. Hammock? anything that you'd like to tell us as a board, Ms. Hammock?
No, I'm just trying to do my job. Like you said, it's been a hot seat the last 2.5 years, whatever it's been, but, and a lot of it is because, like you said, trying to bring taxpayers into compliance, you know. And the codes, in some cases, is black and white, in other cases, you know, it's interpretation. And you may read it and get a different interpretation than what I do, you know. That's why they have the process of appeal.
And I think we've had a recent, I won't name the business, but you recently had some issues with agriculture, and I read into that, and I thought that was a bit complicated too.
It is very complicated.
I thought it was very gray area.
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to say, I would like to see the numbers on what Mr. Jennings has been able to generate. That would be interesting whenever you get that data.
I'm assuming he's collected more than what his salary costs the county.
Much, much more.
Following up on Mr. Scarce's request, what kind of information do you have available in that regard?
Basically, the number of audits that he's conducted and the change in assessment, because there hasn't always been an increase. I mean, I'll tell y'all, we've refunded a lot of money back too, where people have never filed, or they filed 10 years ago and never updated it.
Right.
And we've ended up having to refund that.
If they sold some equipment or something.
Exactly. You know, so it hasn't been, in the public's eye, I know if you get hit with a supplemental bill, you think that's what we're out there trying to drum up extra revenue. We want the revenue, but we want what you're supposed to pay. We don't want a penny more or a penny less. And so, like I said, I may have a little more trouble pulling out the refunds, you know, what we've refunded, but we do have, you know, the data, how many audits he's conducted. He's probably got it broken down by year.
Do you have it broken down by type?
I'm trying to think. Probably so. Probably so. Most of it would be VOT. We have a few merchants capital, and I don't think we've had any M&T because we haven't really gotten heavy into those because they are a little more complicated too. And most of our M&T companies file. They have companies that file for them, or they file themselves. So it's not really been an issue with M&T.
Has it settled down some? I know when we first started that with some of the larger costly inventories, with some people with tax bills went way up. We did implement the sliding scale. Does that help to alleviate some of those issues?
Yes. It does.
Okay. Anything else from Ms. Hammock? Thank you.
If
Ms.
not,
Hammock.
I'll get out of your table.
See you. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Okay, any further discussion concerning personal property or any of the tax rates, merchant's capital, anything like that? If, I've read on these, and every time I read this stuff, I come up with something new. And it's kind of complicated, so if you feel a bit overwhelmed, don't feel alone. I have found that when I had questions, Ms. Hammock was very good at answering them. All right, let's see. Let me get my agenda. They give us so much paper here, I don't know what to do with my agenda.
Would you like another one?
I got it in here somewhere. I think Greg's gonna help me out. There it is on the very bottom. All right. Item C, questions, comments, discussion. We'll go to C1 first, budget adjustments. Mr. Smoothman?
Sure, I think Kim has passed out a list of suggested budget adjustments. We discussed this at the Finance Committee's last meeting. Our goal was to try to basically go through our operating budgets and scrape out about $400,000 to set it aside in contingency in hopes that we're able to return that to the bottom line on June 30. And if you want to go through these, we've done the best we can to outline the affected department, the line item, the budget for the year, the amount unspent as of last month, and the proposed reduction to that line item. And of course, if something comes up unknown, the money's still in the budget, and we can reappropriate it back to the necessary expenditure line from contingency. So it's not, we're not taking everything away, we're just moving it aside in hopes that we can return it to the bottom line. I'm happy to answer any particular questions you have.
I have a question on the training for fire and rescue. They don't have any projected training for the rest of the year, or? Looks like you're taking.
They're definitely doing some training. In fact, I approved $2,500 this week, I believe, for fire and rescue training. But as you can see, they haven't even spent $4,000 this year. So the thought that they would spend $81,000 in the next 5 months.
I was just wondering what the issue is. Or they think they're not getting scheduled, or if they don't have the personnel available?
The county's been putting a lot of money in the training. I think we doubled it last year. Did we? I feel like we put more in it. Regardless, it's always had tens and tens and tens of thousands of dollars, and it's not usually used. Now, that is a #1 priority of Mr. Slim in the coming budget, and the budget that we provide you will be focused on training. But we think we're well safe to reduce it by 50 for the next 5 months.
The only other thing, it's not showing up on here, of course. I just wondered what the recount cost for and for. Did that come out of their budget or out of our budget? Or?
Well, their budget is our budget.
I mean, was there any allocated?
Seen
Any significant cost.
Okay, I just wondered.
Nothing that would, raise an eyebrow.
Wasn't that around $3,000?
Oh, goodness.
I saw a figure of $3,000, if my memory correct, was it?
I haven't seen it.
Seems like I saw, there was a figure out on it, I don't have it now, but if I'm not mistaken, it's around $3,000.
Chump change.
Yeah, well, yeah, it could have been
Compared to what?
15,000 or something, I forgot what they said, could have been. I think it was 3,000, it's a little, pardon me. Jeff.
Yeah, it was 3,000, the last estimate that I saw in the
Yeah,
newspaper.
okay, yeah.
I would, first of all, I would like to applaud the staff and Mr. Smitherman for looking for ways to save money. And I know it's a lot of hard work. But I'm also concerned about the perception from the constitutional officers as to when we set a budget, the board voted on a budget back last year, and we set the budget, and now we're just a little over halfway, and we started skimming things that we've never done this before, that I'm aware of. I know since I've been on the board, we hadn't. What I would ask is this, it's just like citizen input. I would ask that, I've got no problem with voting to do this today, or to move it to the board, but instead of it being on a consent agenda, that we would put it on a work session agenda before the board meeting, and any constitutional officer that wants to come in and have anything to say to the board about it could come to the work session and talk with us about it. And that way, the constitutional officers don't say, well, y'all did this and didn't tell us anything about it, or give us an opportunity to at least discuss it. That's my feeling on that.
Just one quick question. If we go through with this, it's not going to preclude them coming back and saying, hey, we ended up needing
Right.
this extra money between now and the end of the year. They can still come back and ask for this, correct? You're just going to put it off to the side in case we need it.
And what we were going to do, which is right along Mr. Blackstock's suggestion, is if you guys this evening say, yeah, we want to move forward with this on the work session or wherever, we were just going to zip this by email to all the affected departments and say, are we missing something that we don't know about? Because from where Kim and I sit, we believe y'all could pull this off. So we want to give everybody the opportunity to tell us, you can't cut me there because there's this that is going to come true. So we definitely want to do that. But as far as the constitutional officers particularly, we can absolutely invite them to speak.
And that's already an item on your work session for these. So that
And we
would-
let them know if they want to come back and discuss it with the board. And that way, we don't hear that, well, we didn't run given an opportunity and any type of miscommunication. Mr. Warren?
I have two questions, Mr. Chairman. The first one being the $45,000 for fire and rescue communication equipment. It appears that's the same answer as the one above. And $100,000 for capital furniture and fixtures. I'm assuming that's...
Is that jail? So the radios, I thought I saw, yeah, he's behind me, Mr. Davis. They had, as part of Mr. Davis's shrewd negotiating, we had a complete refresh is the wrong word, but update and, what's the word?
Software update?
On the
Well, we have
radios.
warranty coverage.
Warranty
still going
coverage.
on That is protecting us.
So every radio in the county has been handled this year, touched, to make sure it was properly functioning. Is that a true statement?
True.
So, any money that would have been moving toward those costs got covered under warranty coverage this year. So no, Mr. Warren, we don't expect to use that money. And on the jail side, if you'll recall, in fact, I think we scrambled to put this in after the administrator's proposed budget last year was $130,000 for jail cameras, which they came to us and said it's an imperative need, it has to be done now, please budget it. Well, nothing's been done since then. And our understanding is there is some third party that has to come to the jail, and I don't know the details, but to weigh in on this issue before this money can be spent. And that's why, since it's been 6, 7 months already, we're hoping that we can get through the rest of it without that.
I think Mr. Davis had a comment.
The amount, Mr. Smitherman did contact me about that line item on communications for fire and rescue. And I told him that we're probably going to still need to purchase batteries, replacement antennas, microphones, speaker mics it's called for the radios, because they get heavily used. They're not warranted items. They're going to have to be replacement items. And when you have over 690 pieces of equipment out there for fire and rescue, you can just about gauge 10% wear and tear. So I told him I'm going to probably need to have somewhere between $20,000 and $30,000 remaining in this budget to help cover me through June on replacing some of those items. So I can't recall exactly what he removed. I think he said 45,000. I can't remember the balance, but he said 18.
I tried to leave you 20 or thereabouts.
But I'm very pleased to hear
That's
the
a bonus
comment
for
that it's still going to be in a contingency line.
One other thing is, I'd love to see all the budget items, like communication equipment, where we budgeted $62,000 and unspent is $63,458. So we're gaining
We're
money.
making money on
We're making money on
that. That means
line
there's
item.
been a mid-year adjustment.
So I really would like to see all of them like that. It'd be nice. One other thing, Mr. Chairman, that, after getting this, I looked at policies for the county, and yes, the time I've been on the board, I haven't seen this occur, and I really want to compliment staff for being so transparent about this, because by policy, anything below 25,000, they could have moved without even any exposure. So this again goes back to the fact that this board and this staff is trying to be as transparent as possible. So thank you all for that, because I think that only helps us in the long run, Mr. Chairman.
Can we, Ms. Davis?
I want to tag on to what you just said a few minutes ago with what they're doing, the staff is doing. I'm going to make a comment. We've got a misconception of understanding between the staff, the staff and the board, as well as constitutional officers on this relocation of monies on the budget. In my estimation, I just saw it, because I see things quite differently on a lot of things. That's just the way I am. I'm on another planet, apparently. But the way I see that Mr. Smitherman, Kim has gotten together, as well as other staff members, all they have done with these is it's a medical operation that I see, that they move the numbers, real simple. It's not that complicated. It's almost like when I have to go to my doctor and he wants to check my cholesterol, he wants to check all the enzymes that's going on in my blood, I've got to fast for 12 to 24 hours, so that way he gets an accurate reading on exactly what's going on with my blood. That's all this is happening right here, is just a fast for these numbers that see where our blood's at in Pittsylvania County. That's the way I see that. And I compliment you guys for having the insight to see it like that and do that. That's the way I see it. It's not, I don't see where it's going to affect or threaten anybody, because, as Mr. Scare said, the numbers are there. If the money's needed, it comes back. It's reappropriated, or whatever the mechanism is. But it's I think it's ideal. It was an ideal opportunity to see just where we're losing, where the cracks in our metal and where our ship's taking water on. And I appreciate what you guys did. Thank you.
Mr. Smitherman, because it's such a touchy area and has been in the past with fire and rescue, could maybe we get Mr. Slimp, have Mr. Slimp also appear at that time with maybe whoever's heading fire and rescue, you know, have them both in a room when we go over this, so it's no miscommunication?
Well, we've certainly already reviewed these with Mr. Slim and Mr. Davis. If that's something you want to do, we certainly can.
Well, I think we should invite them to the next board meeting. They can be in here when we explain to the Constitutional Office what we do.
Sure.
And that way, and if nobody shows up, that's fine, but at least they hear at the work session, and if they have any questions, they can ask.
Absolutely.
Because I think in the past, we were all trying to do the right thing, and some things got miscommunicated. And it's just easier if we say, oh, hey, at the next work session, we'll discuss this, so anybody's got any questions, just let's get them right there on the table.
And I second that motion, because I agree with him. I like what Mr. Blackstock is doing as far as the information is concerned. We do need to, everybody's got to be informed, and I agree with that, because I thought Mr. Slimp was going to be here today.
Well, and, Mr. Slimp's got a big job trying to coordinate things, all these fire and rescue folks, and it's, we started in a new direction, and it's communication's key.
I agree.
All right, so I guess, do we need, Baden's not here to ask today, but Mr. Smitherman, do we need a motion to that effect, or are we just going to do that? You're going to put it on the work session agenda?
It is on the work session.
We're going to invite the constitutional officers and Mr. Slimp and fire and rescue?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay.
And I guess my question is, staff, right now it's on your work session, and then it's listed as an item of consent. Do we need to take it off consent and put it
Yes.
as new business, as a...
I would prefer that it come out of consent, because if we have any changes, we would need to address it.
Okay. We'll move it.
Okay.
Can you take that out?
Everybody okay with that? Yeah. Just as, give everybody an opportunity. It's just like public hearings. And
Right.
okay. Any other comments about the budget adjustments, transfer to contingency? All right, we've got questions, comments, and discussion of items under item C. I'll open the floor to any board member first, committee member or board member. I'd just like to, the finance chairman, to say we just went through a work session, not a work session, but a retreat. It seemed like an awful lot like a work session to me. And I know I got a lot out of the retreat. We discussed a lot of issues that affect the budget, especially on Saturday afternoon. And I just want to thank the staff and the board members for, I think we had an open, frank discussion. That's important. If we're going to make long-term plans for the financial stability of the county, we all need to be open and frank. And I think that's, I know I felt when I left the retreat I felt a lot better about that than I have in past meetings over the years. So, we may not all agree as to what priorities are, but at least we feel comfortable talking about it. Anything else, staff?
All right. Mr. Chairman, let me comment on that. All the board members that are here, if I were to ask you, and this is not a loaded question, just something for you to think about, because I've struggled with this since I come back from that meeting. And I'm going to be quite, not candid, frank, but I'm going to be Joe. I'm going to be Joe about this. I did not feel good yesterday working on my job. I did not feel good about the retreat. Real simple, because there were quite a few unanswered questions. And so I had to ask myself in my little bubble, what is going on? What is really going on? So this is why I'm asking this question. So I'm sorry if I'm not on the same globe as everybody else. I'm not trying to be antagonistic or I'm sorry, I'm going to be myself. Because I answered the 9,500 constituents that looking for 400 that are looking for answers from me, and they expected me to do certain things, I'm sure, have told me this. But this is not based on that information. I understand the responsibility, but I'm speaking to you on my own vessel. I'm radioing to the captain, if you please, if you don't mind the analogies to all of it. But if I were to ask every ship captain that has their vessel in their out there on the sea, my question to you is this: what does vision mean to you? Every one of us. I'm sorry, not the rest are here. But what does vision really mean to you? What is a vision? I have a conclusion, and I already know the answer, but I'm just saying, what is a vision to us as board members? What is your vision for your district? What is your vision for Pittsylvania County as a whole? And you need to think about that, if you will. I would ask that you would, because I have other comments to make on that, because I'm going to follow them up. I'm sorry. This is just the way it is. Somebody said, don't apologize. Well, I'm just telling you, what is your vision for Pittsylvania County? That is the question. And what is it? Because I studied and I went through my thought faculties, what little bit I have, and I listed and I saw the pros and I saw the cons, but the beauty of it was each one needs each other. And that was what the beauty of it was, because I was negative. I said, I'm going to just give you a sample. I looked at the steps that we were looking at from 3 off of each chart, and I'm thinking to myself, well, we're going to attack money, we're going to attack this. Somebody said vision, somebody said this, that. But in my opinion, I'm going to give you the analogy. Very quickly. We got on the Love boat, and on the front of that boat was vision. That's the name of that boat, okay? We went up the gangplank. We had the mooring line on the front and the aft, okay? Still tied up at the dock. We all went on, okay? We went to the galley. If anybody knows what the galley is, why am I using nautical terms, Navy terms? Because you can relate to this. Is this directed at you? No. Well, we were in the galley eating. And I must admit, with all due respect, with humility of heart, humbleness of mind, we never got out of the galley. We never got out of the galley. The mooring lines were never launched. Why, even the gangway, the gangplank was never raised. We were in the galley, okay? We were complaining about the sorry food service that we had. And it embarrassed me, because this young lady was upset because of whatever the problems were. Apparently they were in the kitchen or whatever. Regardless of that, we were very callous in our statements that we made. I am taking responsibility as well. This lady, both ladies, the one serving as well as the one who was over this thing, was very distraught. And I sampled that and watched that in the hallway. And they heard, and this lady, Miss Olive, she heard the statements, and she tried to placate us with with all this other stuff, getting all of that. I was embarrassed of how we acted as a county, of staff as well as leaders. I was disappointed in our actions. Secondly, we never got out of the galley because we were too busy putting up charts. There's nothing wrong with that. But all we were doing was laying water mines all around that ship, okay? That's the way I saw it. And that ship was never, ever going to set sail in any way, shape, fashion, or form. And that's the way I saw it, because we couldn't get out of the galley complaining about the food service each day. Even though Bob would come in late the next day, whatever the reasons are, I'm not concerned, whatever, 2 hours later he gets his meal. Well, thank God he got his meal. But I'm saying that to say this. We never got away from the dock. We didn't do anything but set up ways that we're not going to get there. You know why we're not going to get there? Because we do not have a vision for the county. And I'm not talking about necessarily our district, but I'm talking about the stinking biggest county in the state of Virginia. And we're just not. We're not there. We're not getting there. We're not even launching sail. So I'm saying that to say this. I am not getting down on anybody. I'm trying to look at the real issues of what I'm looking for the vision. What is our vision for this county? We got a mission statement, but I dare say if I was to ask any of us, I don't know. I don't even know what's on that mission statement. But all we've got is steps that all we've put up of barriers. Well, we've got to do this. We've got to do that. We've got to do this. All right, let me paint it in, and I'll finish right here. I'll get off this terrain. This is the way I see it. I had a scuba instructor who told me this and didn't even know what he was talking about. You got two ways to fly. Greg, you can follow in. You can get your certification, you can go through all your training, then you can buy a stinking airplane. That's great. That's wonderful. And I know a gentleman who went the opposite, who wanted to fly. He bought the airplane, put it in his front yard. Everybody was, what in the world is he doing? He got in there and fooled with the controls and everything else. But he put the vision right there in his face for him to see as well as everybody else. And not only did everybody else see it, now, what are you going to do now, dummy? So you know what? It wasn't a problem. He already had his vision. All right? The steps to get there, which we put up in the paper, nothing wrong with that. But they're not so hard to meet because he's already there. And I'm going to tell you what vision is. It's imagination. And I really don't see it. We're too busy putting out fires here, worried about this, worried about this. My vision for Pittsylvania County is to have a cancer research institute that's state-of-the-art, that treats all cancers but has health care. I see a 4-block library system. You can have MLK on there, JFK, or whoever was here. I see that. I see a coliseum, unprecedented, built by Bose Speaker Corporation, those engineers that could come in, and the only time you use electricity is to dull the dumb lights, and you can be in the bathroom and hear somebody whisper on stage. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I see in Pittsylvania County. That's what I see. Where? I have no idea. I don't care. Goes to Gretna, goes to Bannister. I don't care. But that's what I see here. That, my friend, in my estimation, brings in revenue. You say, well, we got to worry about the poor. The biblical term is we will always have the poor with us. So what does that mean? Whatever the reasons are, that they can't make it or whatever else, so be it. But here's the other part. If your revenue goes up and you have more interest and more bodies coming here interested in what we have. Oh, yeah, by the way, I forgot. A major university in education. And I'm talking a top-notch Ivy League as far as I'm concerned. We got the historical background in the state of Virginia. Why not have a Harvard or Yale? Why not? What's the matter with that? I never heard the term, why can't we do this while we were on that retreat? I didn't hear that. Never heard it. We're too busy consumed with, we can't see the forest for the trees. Well, I can see the forest. And that's not, I'm so smart. I am not. I'm the simplest one. But I know this. That's what I see, those 4 elements in our state. I mean, in our county. In our county alone. You say it can't happen. I say it can happen. But my point is I need whoever else that's involved, and I don't care if I have to go to another state or wherever else to talk to other people or CEOs, I don't care who I have to talk to, because I will be at their disposal. I'll wait on their tables, I'll get them whatever they want, if they'll give me the information to get us there. The only thing I'm gonna need from you guys is to help me get there. And that's what I see, 4 elements in our county. I just said it. And I would say the university, the locals, they would have a sizable decrease as far as tuition is concerned. In the state, it would raise up naturally, but if you're out of the state, you're going to pay handsomely to come here. That's just one of many things. I don't need to work out the weeds, but that's what I see right here. But I never saw that at the table, never saw it. We were too busy worrying about stomping fires. We got some of the brilliantest brains from Elton all the way around, Dr. Miller, Bob, Tim, all of you guys, everybody on the staff. We've got a great winning team in my estimation, Jim Davis. But the question is, how are we going to get there? Well, that's my vision, first and foremost. How about doing me a favor? How about getting me there? Because I don't have the answers. I don't have the wherewithal. You got information, and I'm not going to all of that. But I want to get there. You say, well, agriculture. Oh, agriculture. Yes, sir, I believe in agriculture. But I also believe in diversification. And we've got to step it up. And that's the way I see Pittsylvania County, because we've got the ability with staff, with the Board of Supervisors. We also have the mechanism, and we have the opportunity. And I'm not going to let this go away for 4 years. I may not live to see it, so be it. But if I get the ground broke for a university, or if I was, and I'm not looking for a bust to me, keep that junk. That does not mean anything to me. I don't care about Luke knows me. I don't care about that junk. I don't need that. I don't care about that. But it's for my grandchildren, their children, your grandchildren. That's what I'm looking at. You hear the passion in my voice? I mean what I say. I'm on board. How about the rest of us? I want this. And you know what? I've got people that I will not name that are in the elite crowd, so to speak, the illuminated crowd, so to speak, the elite, may I say the pundits, that have said to me, I'm looking out for my grandchildren that are not even born yet. All we're doing, we're worried about taxes, we're worried about money, we're worried about this, that, and the other, and that's okay, that's our job. But we've got no vision, no vision. And I'm expecting, you say, well, I don't want that, I don't want this. Well, we need one, at least get a start. Say, well, it costs too much money, that's going to be, and we may need a jail, so what? So what? But the thing is, if we can't start out big, we need to start out small. If we can't put $2 million like we discussed the other day, me and Barbara, Mr. Barber, well, $100,000. We need to start, put a footprint or a fingerprint somewhere. And there's money to do it with. The question is the negotiation process. So that's the way I feel about it. And I'm not preaching to you guys, I apologize, but I am passionate, and it's not a put down to nobody on this board. And I'm not trying to be arrogant, or I'm sorry, I'm not being, I promise you, I would not offend not a soul. If I said something that's offended you, I do apologize, but I'm not going to change my message. We've got to move, and we've got the ability, we can do it. Thank you.
I think we all understand what you're saying as far as your vision for the future, and I think we each share, I think part of that retreat was we each have a different vision, but as a team we need to come together and put together a vision for the entire county. And so, I got a lot out of the retreat, but I appreciate your input. I think the rest of the board does. Mr. Warren?
Mr. Chairman, I would just like to say that I too found the retreat to be very beneficial and very positive. But I do want to remind everyone too that the retreat of the 2 days was a beginning of a process.
Sure.
That we're going to continue throughout this year, and fortunately, verbally anyway, the Regional Foundation has committed that, we're seeing some positive results from us on it, that they're committed for 2 years, not just 1. So hopefully we can continue to move forward as a group and doing the best job we possibly can for the citizens.
All right. Anybody else? We have about 10 minutes to get ready for the training session. Before everybody breaks loose, what do we need for the training session? We need, they've got the covers on the stands for everybody, so if you hadn't received that, they have that. Dr. Miller needs his, I know. And then, what else do we need, Rebecca?
All you need.
Okay. All right, I don't need to entertain a motion to adjourn the committee. I'll adjourn the committee at 4:50.
Thank you,